Once upon a time, words we love so well, storytellers tell in words with wings of names and kings and wondrous things.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan and welcome back to Every Version Ever. Today I'm joined once more by Stanford Clark, and this time we're joined by Rachel Wagner. This is the final of our 3-part miniseries looking at Peter Pan musicals, and today we're talking about a very obscure musical from 1976 starring Mia Farrow. Rachel is the host of the Hallmarkies podcast, and we wanted her to join us for this one because this version was actually made by Hallmark. This was in the pre-rom-com Hallmark days. A lot of people don't know that Hallmark as a production company actually goes back decades, even back to radio. I've covered some of their stuff before, and my favorite version of Alice in Wonderland was actually made by Hallmark as well, so they have a long history of adapting classic literature for the screen. They've just gotten away from that in recent years. So today we'll be talking about one of the most obscure Peter Pans I've covered so far, the 1976 musical starring Mia Farrow as Peter Pan.
They just wait for children passing by.
So this was a very different Peter Pan musical. It followed a lot of the same beats as the Mary Martin one and the ones that have been like the remakes of the Mary Martin one. I guess part of that is because it's based on the same book, but it almost felt like they were, aside from a couple places, it almost felt like they were taking the Mary Martin musical and writing their own songs for it.
Which they did. I mean, there was, all new music. All new music.
I mean,
Well,
it's all the same story, so of course it's going to feel that way.
Yeah. The one big thing, I think that probably one of the most notable things about this is that it opens with a song sung by Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
Which was actually really good. I mean, it's Julie Andrews, so
It was the
how could
only
it not?
song. It was the only song I liked. But I loved it was Julie Andrews. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I thought she did great.
To me, it kind of, you could tell it was Leslie Bricusse. It had like the feel of Oliver and his Scrooge, and I don't know, I didn't mind the songs. I thought they were fun. None that are really like sticking out in my head. I like the pirate song. I thought was kind of fun. And I'm a super apologist when it comes to musical theater of any kind. I am really easy to please. So
Well, I really admire Leslie Bricusse. I mean, and he's got a wonderful catalog, of songs that he's written. I just thought that every song was so forgettable for me. And I guess too, as John and I have been talking about over multiple episodes, that I'm just a big fan of the Mary Martin 1954 Broadway version that then again was subsequently that's the one that's been repeated on TV.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably stronger,
but that's just my own bias.
Yeah, I mean, that one probably is stronger, and I think the Disney songs are probably stronger than that. But I was just kind of like, oh, that's fun. I like it. New songs. I mean, it's the thing with Peter Pan for me is just not a story that I love. So I'm not like super kind of attached to any particular version. And, I mean, there's some that go too far, like when you've got Hugh Jackman singing Smells Like Teen Spirit and stuff like that. But I think that these were all pleasant for me.
Whatever you're referencing, I have not seen, and now I'm wishing that I had seen that.
Okay.
What version was that?
You didn't make Pan part of your...
It's called Pan.
No,
and
I haven't seen that one.
And what year did that come out, Rach? It seemed like it was maybe 2005 or something.
Something like that, yeah. Something like that.
Oh,
Joe Wright, great director. I don't know
Yeah.
how that happened, but they sing Metallica.
I didn't think.
Nirvana.
I didn't think Pan was very good either.
No, it's not good.
I have not seen that one. That one will have to be one that I make a point to get to the next time I get back to Peter Pan.
Next year, when Peter Pan recircles, right, or resurfaces.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say these are like super memorable, but I thought they were cute. I liked all the performances. I thought were enjoyable. I liked Mia Farrow. Danny Kaye, I thought was having a lot of fun.
Yeah, for me, I would say this one is no offense to Stanford, but I thought this was as good as the Mary Martin version.
No, and none taken, because I thought production wise, it was pretty good. In fact, probably even better than the Mary Martin one. And it should have been, because it was what, 15 years, 16 years later,
But the Mary Martin one, that's just the film. Isn't that just a pro shot?
No, it was done. I believe it was done in a television studio.
Oh, okay.
It feels like it because it's just, I mean, again, filmed in 1960 and single camera, basically, is what it feels like.
I've only seen the Kathy Rigby one, which I think is a pro shot.
Yes, Kathy, that was a pro shot.
Yeah, that one was shot on stage in front of an audience.
So I've never seen the other ones. I mean, I've seen Peter Pan on stage before, and it's it's fun, but I do think the Disney songs are better.
Yeah. So when you say you've seen it on stage, is it specifically the musical that they did with Mary Martin and then Kathy Rigby and then Alice Williams?
Yeah, I've seen it. In fact, there's a national tour of it going on right now. So it may be coming to a city near you.
Is it starring Kathy Rigby? Okay.
I don't think so.
I was telling John, it was just like I just remember that in my young adulthood that pro shot, one of Kathy Rigby, that toured a lot. I swear it came to Salt Lake like every year or every other year. I never saw it. But
the high-flying musical has been thrilling audiences of all ages for close to 70 years and has been brought back to life in a new adaptation by celebrated playwright Larissa Fasthorse, directed by blah, 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 blah. Let's see, does it say who is it doesn't have the star. Oh, here, cast. Oh, they have a male, Peter.
Oh, that'll be different.
Which is unusual for the stage. Nolan Almeida looks young.
Interesting.
Like a young man playing Peter.
That would be an interesting one to see. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't love the Peter. Like, I don't hate it or anything, but it's just not a story that's ever really been that appealing to me. I don't know why.
Have you seen a live production of it, Rachel?
Yes, I have. I know I've seen it at least once. Not recently, but I know I've seen it. I've Got a Crow. I remember that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's
I got the whole world.
Jonathan and I both like.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of really catchy ones in that musical.
Yeah.
My big issue with the Mia Farrow one was Mia Farrow, because I mean, she's an excellent actress, and I think she had just kind of the right look and etc. for the role. I thought she was a terrible singer, and so I just like here having this terrible singing with these forgettable songs. It was like, oh, get me out of here. And and I think Danny Kaye is just as charming as the day is long. I mean, Danny Kaye is great. I didn't think that he was really great as Captain Hook. So, but for me, it was Mia Farrow. Oh, wow. Torture.
What do you think, Jonathan?
I thought she was about on par with Mary Martin, and I thought she was better than Allison Williams.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I didn't love the Allison Williams one, so I suppose it's not that hard to be better than that version.
Well, I mean, especially when you got Christopher Walken, just like, what is he doing?
Sleepwalking through it all.
Like, at least everybody in this was trying.
Yeah. I feel like this one, it's the songs are not as memorable as the Mary Martin version, but I thought everything was okay enough. I enjoyed it enough. I thought it was about on par with the Mary Martin version. And then my favorite of all of these has been the Kathy Rigby version. So it's definitely not as good as the Kathy Rigby version for me, but I thought it was serviceable.
Yeah.
One of the things that John and I have talked about too, Rachel, is that my parents were huge Broadway fans, and we had all these original Broadway cast recording albums, when I was growing up. It was kind of like the soundtrack of my youth. And so Mary Martin was a big part of that. Like they had a recording of the original Broadway cast recording of Sound of Music, which she was in, South Pacific. And we also had a recording of this Peter Pan. And then it was in regular rotation. I don't know how many, it seems like it was shown annually, even though it was filmed in 1960 and I wasn't born then, but it was shown a lot. So nostalgia is a big factor, which for me, it is what it is.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Mary Martin is that she had like very minimal range. And so all of these musicals were written to accommodate her and her like very minimal range, and particularly Sound of Music and this Peter Pan, that the vocal range of both those main characters is very small.
Well, sure, yeah, no question. But for me, I used to say, is this the sentimental feeling that I get hearing her voice? You know, I think she's got a very warm and inviting voice, and so for me, it works. I can understand why it wouldn't work for many others, but for me,
I like it. I enjoy it.
Reason behind it for me,
yeah, I enjoy it. It's just not a story that I like love super much. But it's fine. I like it. Fine. I mean, I guess that's just why I'm not like super critical of this Hallmark one, because I'm not like super attached to the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides Mia Farrow and Danny Kaye, did you guys recognize anybody else in this?
Just Julie Andrews' voice.
Oh, that's true. Okay, besides Julie Andrews and Mia Farrow and Danny Kaye, I didn't recognize anybody else.
No, I didn't.
No, I
don't think
either.
I did.
I didn't.
I will say, though, I feel like this is probably the worst Nana that I've seen so far. I did not like the Nana costume.
They were very committed to the bit. I'll tell you that.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the face. There was just something about it that I did not like this Nana.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't the best recording, it was this is like basically considered a lost film.
Yeah.
It only aired one time.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm not sure where this recording came from. It must have been somebody taped it off the TV back in the 70s. And
yeah.
Well, the one that I watched, the way they had taped it. It was on the VHS, right? And it seemed kind of classic VHS issues with
lines, a little bit of garbling here and there.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish the Hallmark would do musicals again.
I was thinking that while I was watching this. I was like, why doesn't Hallmark do this anymore?
There was a time when the Hall of Fame, they did a version of Kiss Me Kate, they did Peter Pan, they did Secret Garden, they did more like Family Fare. There's a version of the Snow Queen that is from Hallmark. It's an interesting brand because the brand has gone through so many different iterations over the years. There was a time when the Hallmark Channel was actually known for airing Star Trek, if you can believe it. And they had all these like really schlocky disaster movies. And there was one actually I wasn't on the episode. Oh, you were on the episode for the pandemic, right?
Lisa and I did that one.
Yeah.
And somebody else too. I don't remember who it was. There was a pandemic movie that we did at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, like 2003 to 2006 was wild. There were also a ton of cowboy movies during that time that were really really slug. And so it's interesting to see like the history of kind of the brand. And me and my friend Thaddeus have been doing these classic Hallmark throwback episodes of the podcast. And last year we did the first 3 Hallmark movies, Hallmark Christmas movies. And one of them is called The Littlest Angel. And it's a musical that it was one of the strangest movies I've ever seen in my life. And The Littlest Angel, the child that literally falls off a mountain and yes, goes to heaven. And
what in the world?
Yes. And it's wild. And everything in heaven looks like a discotheque. And
oh my stars.
Is really funny.
Crazy.
Yes.
This does not sound like you're describing a Hallmark movie.
No, it's so interesting, isn't it? Before they kind of found their groove, their rom-com groove, right?
Yeah. But it was fun was one of my favorite episodes of the podcast, actually. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Littlest Angel, Have I Got a Christmas for You, and Stubby Pringle's Christmas were the first 3 Christmas movies the Hallmark ever did. And Have I Got a Christmas for You they all have their sort of campy appeal. But Have I Got a Christmas for You is fun. It's about this group of Jewish people that decide to work their Christian friends' jobs on Christmas Day so that their friends can take the day off for the holiday. And it's just so funny because they set up this like giant command center and they're like, this is a major crisis, and like really the way they have it all set up is just really funny. And you're like, I don't think they could have somebody just for one day, like be a nurse. Like, I don't think that's the way it works, but anyway, it was a lot of fun. It's got Milton Berle and he's like leading the command center and he's like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get through this, but all good things come to those who, sacrifice or whatever.
Oh my stars. Milton Berle in a Hallmark movie.
Yes. Milton Berle.
Now, Rachel, it seems to me like the Hallmark Hall of Fame was like a staple of my childhood. I can't remember if was it something that came out once a month? Or do you know, or if it was something that was every few months? It seemed like it was more frequently than once a year. But I also remember it was like something special, like the Hallmark Hall of Fame. It seemed like it was like Sunday night, and we'd have I'd just be with my family, and this is something that we would watch. It was family friendly. We'd watch it on TV together.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. It's so sad because they kind of let the brand die, which makes me really sad. For a while, they were just kind of slapping the Hall of Fame title onto just like a slightly bloated cast of the rom-coms, but they weren't doing like Sarah Plain Tall and Magic Ordinary Days and Loving Leah and movies like that anymore. And it goes even back to radio, Hallmark Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was monthly, but I think it was at the very least seasonal.
Yes. Okay.
And for a long time, it was on CBS.
Right. And then I think this one was on NBC, this Peter Pan one.
Yeah.
And it was the 25th Hallmark Hall of Fame that they were rating, if I'm not mistaken, if that's what I read, about it.
They have on the Hallmark Channel, they have all of them listed if you want to see.
Oh, okay.
But there's some really good movies.
Do they still do it on the Hallmark? As you mentioned, kind of that brand has been.
They haven't done one since 2019, which makes me very sad. Yeah, they haven't officially retired because Hallmark officially retires nothing. It's so annoying as a fan. You just wait and wait to hear if something will get canceled or if something. No, they never will tell you. They're so bad at like communicating with fans or having any kind of dialogue with fans. And so they haven't ever officially retired the brand. But yeah, we haven't had one since 2019.
Did that one on 2019, was it broadcast on one of the Hallmark networks, or was it broadcast on one of the US broadcast networks?
So it was on Hallmark Channel, and the last one to be on CBS, what was that? So it was actually ABC. I think it might have been 2013 or 14. Something like that. I'm not sure, but it's been a bit.
I thought it had gone that late because the Hallmark Hall of Fame was something that I remember when I was a kid. I don't remember watching a lot of them, but I remember seeing the commercials for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then my very favorite version of Alice in Wonderland is a Hallmark movie from 1999.
Yeah, they did that.
Was it a Hall of Fame one, Jonathan? I mean, not that that's completely relevant, but
it was.
So.
It was okay.
Yeah.
And it was like on CBS or NBC too. Is that okay? Interesting.
But they have like a version of all Quiet on the Western Front. They have, some really like ambitious TV movies. Yeah, Have I Got a Christmas for You? That was 1977, and it's got Steve Allen, Jim Backus, Milton Berle.
Oh wow,
it's pretty fun. It's campy, but I enjoyed it. But yeah. So this was in 1976.
Yep, 1976, and then I believe it's the 25th.
There's a version of Brief Encounter from 1974 starring Richard Burton and Sophia Loren.
Oh my stars!
Yeah, The Littlest Angel, that was 1969. A little shepherd boy newly arrived in heaven tries to adjust to the life in the hereafter.
That sounds so strange.
It's wild. It's wild. So yeah, I mean, I think it's worth checking out if you love Peter Pan. There's certainly been worse, let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was interesting that they started this one in Kensington Gardens, where the famous Peter Pan statue is. It was like the only scene that wasn't like on a soundstage.
Right. And it's John Gielgud, isn't he the one who's narrating it?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yes. Yep. Well, like I said, they do some things similar to the musical, and some things closer to the book than others, and some things, some weird choices too. Like one of the first things that stood out to me that was so strange was for some reason they've renamed pixie dust to moon dust. It's like, okay, well, that's a random
Whatever that means. Yeah.
choice to change that. And I know Stanford, you didn't really like Mia Farrow, but I thought she did a decent job as Peter. I mean, I know it's not exactly true to the story, but I liked that she was nice. Like she's one of the nicest Peters that we've gotten. Yeah, like I said, it's not really that true to the book because Peter is full of himself, but I did kind of like this as a different take on Peter.
True.
I didn't really love the Tinkerbell special effect. It's have you guys seen the old Disney movie, The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes? It reminded me of the sounds the computer makes.
Oh, that's great.
It just sounded, it was supposed to be like a tinkling bell, I suppose, but it sounded like a bleebly sounding 60s era computer. And then this version was closer to the book in that the parents rush home and see them fly away, which
isn't the original a play? Not a book.
Peter Pan went through many iterations before it got to where it is now. It started out as a completely different book, and he took the chapter that contained Peter Pan and fleshed that out. And I believe the play may have come out before the actual book. And then he finalized the book and then added an extra chapter. And then I think that extra chapter sometimes gets added into the stage play when Wendy grows up, because that isn't always in it, and it wasn't in the original. So that was something
I thought it was just a play.
No, I mean, I think the play may have been like the final play that we have now. I think that may have been published before the book, but it is a book. It went through a bunch of iterations before it got to what it is now. Like, I know, like, you could have definitive versions, like, must be true to the book, but like, there's a bunch of versions of Peter Pan, so some are slightly different. And the original Peter Pan wasn't even about Peter Pan. He was just a character that showed up. So yeah, Peter Pan evolved over the years.
I could have sworn I've read the book as a kid, and it's been years. But I also am just mostly familiar with the play.
Yeah, I think most people are. I feel like I read the book when I was a kid, but I don't remember for sure. I recently reread it for the podcast. It's been a little bit now since I've finished it, so I'm not like I've seen so many versions now, and I've read the book in between, like watching a version and then reading some more chapters and then watching another version. They all kind of run together in my head. So sometimes I have to reference the book as I'm doing these. So I'm not always 100% sure if something was from the book or a certain version, but some are better than others. And sometimes I like movie choices better than the book choices, because sometimes the book can be strange. And like that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like like similar to Alice in Wonderland, different versions try to make it make more sense than the book to varying degrees of success. I think one of the ones that probably does it the best is the 2003 version, even though that version it has some weird choices of its own, like inventing the new ant character. But I feel like it takes some of the strangeness and adds a little bit to make it make a little bit more sense. Like it's one of those books that unless you've actually read it, it's hard to explain because there's so much in it that is, I don't know if metaphor is the correct word, but like it's talking about childhood and memory and a bunch of different semi-abstract things, but it does have more of a through line narrative than Alice in Wonderland does, because Alice in Wonderland is almost completely metaphor and jokes and references to Victorian culture and stuff that most people aren't going to understand. Peter Pan is more understandable, even though sometimes it is hard to understand. I don't know. It's kind of a strange book. Even though I read it within the past couple of months, still it's hard to explain.
So evidently it was a play in 1904, and then they took the chapters from when it was introduced and made that into a book. And then he later in 1911, which was 7 years after, adapted the play into a novel called Peter and Wendy. And that was 1911 when he did that. So I guess but the first iteration was by Barry, at least, aside from these chapters. That was the play.
Was the stage play.
Yeah. Peter Pan, or the boy who wouldn't grow up.
Yeah. The character and like brief details about his life originated in a completely different book, though. It was
The
called
Little White Bird. Yeah. There were 5 chapters. Peter is a 7-day-old baby and is flown from his nursery to Kensington Gardens in London, where fairies and birds taught him to fly. So he's in between a boy and a bird.
Yeah, the character changed a lot from the Little White Bird introduction.
For the play.
Yeah.
So the main that we know, Peter Pan, that was the play.
Yeah, the full story. Yeah, it evolved. It's one of those stories that I don't want to say he was like George Lucas, but he tinkered with his story after the original publication.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of Danny Kaye as Hook?
I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. I liked his song. Like it's like I'm a pirate now or something like that. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Pirates of Penzance, almost more than Peter Pan.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, Rachel. It did have that feel, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. It was kind of like, I am a pirate king. There is not a greatest thing than be a pirate king. That's from Pirates of Penzance.
Yes.
I thought he was a decent Hook. I will say he was much better than the Hook that I had just previously watched with the 2014 version.
Wow.
Which that was probably one of the worst Captain Hooks
ever.
Yeah, I mean, he was like high.
Like on paper, the choice of Christopher Walken seems like, yeah, I mean, he could be a Captain Hook. But then he starts talking and trying to sing, and it's like, oh no, this is incorrect.
Oh, it's really bad.
What did you guys think of the Lost Boys in this version?
They were fine.
I thought they were okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, this one I watched right after watching the 2014 version, so anything after that is an upgrade.
Well, whether the Lost Boys are all adults.
Yes, and leprechauns for some reason. I don't think they were technically supposed to be leprechauns, but that's what they look like to me.
That's what it looked like. Yeah.
I thought it was kind of strange that they do the build a house around her scene, but they did it weird because after she gets shot down, she wakes up pretty quickly and they just decide to build her a house instead of needing to build a house around her while she recovers, which I thought, I don't know, it seemed like a weird addition if you're not going to do the scene correctly. And then she has a song about what kind of house she wants, which, like, if I'm going by the Mary Martin musical, this one replaces the We Have a Mother song.
Yeah.
I feel like the We Have a Mother song is much better than this one.
Yeah.
And then the Lost Boys and Wendy go into her house. Was it supposed to be a replacement for the hideout? Because it seemed like, I don't know, a clown car. Like they shouldn't have all fit in there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was wondering too.
It's just magic. It's Neverland. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you have to just go with it. It's a fairy tale. And this version it has the Mermaid's Lagoon scene.
Yay
And
for
then
mermaid.
this one was, again, the Disney version has Skull Rock. This version has Skull Rock. There is no Skull Rock in the book. So I think they just kind of swiped that from the Disney version, whether purposefully or not purposefully. There is no Skull Rock in the book. So it seems strange that they would choose to call this place Skull Rock.
We're all just accustomed to it, right?
Yes.
Expect it to be in the story.
Yeah. And then this version has Peter as Hook orders the pirates to give Tiger Lily their boat when he's doing the rescue scene mimicking Captain Hook. And then he sends Wendy back with Tiger Lily, which I suppose works. This doesn't have quite as big of a budget. They can't tie her to a kite like the book says she should be. And then Hook has a song as he's hunting Peter, by hook or by crook, which as soon as he said that, I was like, that is the most obvious Captain Hook pun. I cannot believe this hasn't been done before. Maybe it has, and I just haven't seen a version, but that seems like so obviously perfect. I can't believe nobody's done by hook or by crook for Captain Hook before.
They finally took advantage of the pun.
And then later on, after everybody's back and fine, Peter and Wendy have the conversation about whether or not they're really the parents of the lost boys, and Wendy wondering what Peter's feelings towards her are. They don't have the line about Tiger Lily also having feelings for her. I guess we should talk about the Indians in this version too. This version is better as far as the Indians go. It's not perfect. These ones are not, well, they're not idiots like they were in the Mary Martin version. So already is an upgrade. I feel like there's still a bit of stereotyping going on here, but I suppose if you're going to do a stereotype, these ones get the noble savage stereotype. So I guess if they have to be a stereotype, they got the good one. I don't know. There have been some really bad natives in different versions of Peter Pan. So I have to say, even though this wasn't perfect, it was better than some of the others I've seen.
Yeah.
And then in this version, they also have the scene where Peter's talking about flying back home and finding his window barred and another boy sleeping in his bed. And like so far in this version, Peter has been more earnest than other Peters that I've seen. And I was kind of expecting this version, if they would include it, to be played more wistfully and like trying to tug at your heartstrings. But he seemed a lot more callous than I was expecting in this one. And the way they use him telling that story is he scares Wendy into wanting to go home, which is not how it happened in the book. And I don't think I've seen it used in that way in any other version, which I mean, I guess it's fine to put a new spin on it. It just felt strange with the way Peter had been portrayed up until this point. And then they do have the scene where the pirates basically massacre the Indians, but they didn't set it up with the Indians keeping watch for the lost boys. It kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere. And then also the medicine right after that, it also seemed like it came out of nowhere. There was no setup for either of those things. They just kind of happened because they happened in the book, so they have to happen.
Yeah.
And then this is another version where Hook goes in to poison Peter. The way they frame these, it's like they could easily make Peter, like Peter's asleep usually in these types of versions. Hook could kill him easily, but he chooses not to. He wants to poison him. In the book, it's that he can't fit into the Lost Boys hideout because he's too big, and he can just barely reach the medicine that Wendy left behind. So that's why the poison happens. It seems weird to me that they keep choosing to do the poison, but have Hook just waltz right in and just not kill him at that point.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it, but I guess I can see that.
And then this one has the fourth wall breaking scene. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. I liked it better than some of the others that I've seen. And then Hook has a long monologue about nobody liking or respecting him. And he delivers it well, but it kind of grinds the story to a halt. But it did have a line that I liked where he goes, infamy, infamy, everyone's got it in for me.
That in his Danny Kaye way.
Yeah. Like there was the song or spoken word poem, whatever it was. Like it wasn't bad. It took forever. It had some good lines in it. There was also they transitioned into another song with the Pirates. I think it's a reprise of a song earlier that the Lost Boys sang about mothers, but I liked Hook's line about his mother teaching him things and doing crochet with his little hook.
clever line and a funny visual just to think about that, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then this has some scenes that are actually accurate to the book, including Wendy giving the boys the message from their real mothers, I hope you die like English gentlemen. And then they actually have the stabbing scene. And they actually have in the book, the Lost Boys count down as each pirate dies. And they actually do that in this version. And then they have the line, Dark and sinister man, have at thee, which leads into a song. And like, I know this is a musical, but it feels like it grinds everything to a halt. Because like with all this happening, it feels like we should be going scene to scene. Like this should be happening quickly, but we keep stopping for songs.
Uh,
And then they have the fight. It doesn't really happen exactly like it does in the book, and they don't even have Captain Hook trying to blow up the ship. And it's like I don't want to say he committed suicide, but he almost just basically gave himself to the crocodile. I don't know if it was supposed to be purposely like he was jumping to his death on purpose, like he wanted to die or what. Because in the book, he jumps into the ocean, but it's to get away from Peter, and he didn't know the crocodile was down there. But with this one, he knows the crocodile's down there and he jumps anyway. And then this version decides to change what happens with the Lost Boys. The narrator says that they like the idea of being pirates so much they decide to stay in Neverland. In the book, they actually do go home and are adopted by the Darlings, which I had forgotten until I reread the book. I actually I figured it out in the middle of recording a podcast with Conrado. I had a little earlier I had told him, no, that was not from the book. They just made that up for this version. And then I looked up something in the book because I hadn't finished the book yet. I hadn't gotten to the last chapter. I was like, oh, wait a minute. The Darlings do adopt them.
yeah, that's what I remember. The Darlings adopt them.
Yeah, no, I had not remembered. Like, if I had read the book when I was a kid, I had completely forgotten that. And I'm more familiar with the Disney version because the Lost Boys do not come home in the Disney version.
Right.
So I kind of had just assumed that no, they didn't go home with them. But no, that's from the book. But with this version, I guess they decided to be pirates instead of going home and being adopted. And then they have a line with Peter where they're talking about everything that's happened. And Peter has forgotten Captain Hook, which I thought was interesting because in the book, like I said, there's a lot of stuff about memory and people forget things a lot in Neverland. And they don't really do that in this version, but Peter has a line about, I always forget people after I've killed them, which is not from the book, but it feels semi-true to the spirit of the book.
And to Peter's kind of attitude, right? And character.
Yeah. And then Wendy tells him not to forget her and to come back when it's time for spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning.
And then once the parents are reunited with them, they have the line about Peter gazing in on the one joy from which he must forever be barred, which is from the book. And then it says that Wendy never saw him again and almost thinks that she dreamt the adventure. But then Peter comes back when she's grown and has her own daughter. And then you get the whole scene with him crying when he realizes she's grown up and Jane wakes up and they decide to go to Neverland and fly out the window. And they actually have the line, the gay and innocent and heartless line from the book, which we've discussed in numerous episodes now, so I won't go into it again unless Rachel wants more explanation. But yeah, it's interesting which versions choose to use that and which don't. Yeah, that's the Hallmark Hall of Fame version. All in all, I liked this one better than I thought I would, because when I first found this one, it looked kind of bad, and I read that it only aired once, and I was like, well, there must have been a reason. But I feel like it's maybe on par with the Mary Martin one. I don't really see why this one would have gotten lost to time, other than the fact that Mary Martin's version was very popular on stage. So I guess that would have something to do with its timelessness and popularity. So I don't know. Since I'd never seen either one of them, I feel like these are kind of on par with each other. Do you have any final thoughts, Rachel?
No, I think it was fun. I enjoyed it. It felt in the spirit of the other Bocuse musicals, Oliver, Scrooge.
Leslie Bocuse keeps coming up on my podcast for some reason. I don't know why. Just keep running into him here and there.
Yeah, he's done a lot of things.
Well, I think that will be all for this episode. We will be back next time to talk Peter Pan and rank the different versions that I've talked about, and probably some extras for Stanford and Rachel because they've seen some that I have not. So until next time, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they want more from you, Rachel?
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, and at the Hallmarkies podcast.
And Stanford?
Yeah, I've got a movie podcast and website at moviespastandpresent.com.
Okay. Well, we will see you next time for ranking versions of Peter Pan. Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My Linktree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.